I'm going to tell you the truth about solar right now. You ready? It's not free, it's not going to make your bills disappear, and nobody's covering the entire cost for you. In fact, you're going to have to pay for it one way or another, and you can't make extra power in hopes of selling it back to the power company for a profit. I know, bummer. But if you're still interested in solar and you want to find out what's behind some of these misconceptions, you're going to want to check out the rest of the video. My name is Colton, and this is The Solar Impact. And if you've been looking into solar, you've probably been getting blasted by ads making statements that would lead someone to believe that it's free, or that the government's covering the cost for you, or that it's going to completely erase your bills. Things of that nature. You know exactly the ads I'm talking about. In fact, one of them probably popped up right before this video played even. Ads like these are the single biggest problem in the solar industry right now. They're spreading misinformation, half-truths, and honestly, most of them are downright misleading. I started to notice the effect that it was having on the industry as a whole. I started to see that people's expectations of solar were further and further away from the truth because of what some of these ads were saying, and honestly, it just got to a point where it was really confusing for people. What it did for me though was expose the fact that there's a massive education gap in the solar industry that needed to be filled. So I started The Solar Impact as an education platform where I could put all the information up front and out there for everyone to see so that people could actually learn about solar and have the proper expectations going into it. So in this video, we're going to go over some of the terms being used that are causing some of the biggest misconceptions that people have about solar, where they come from, what's behind them, and what it means for you. So follow me here, let's get into it. The first thing that we're going to look at is the term no-cost solar. This one's used in advertisements a lot, probably more than any of them. This one's actually not the worst offender, but without some more context, it can be pretty confusing, and you can imagine it being a pretty big letdown when people would figure out that they in fact do have to pay for solar. So let's clear this one up a little bit and talk about what no-cost solar actually means. So there's several ways that you can pay for solar. One of them is paying cash up front, but in that instance, it certainly wouldn't be no cost to you. Another common way to pay for solar is with low interest, no money down loans. When you hear the terms no-cost solar, this is what they're actually talking about. Because you're already paying the utility company, switching over to paying a solar bill instead isn't going to cost you any more than you were paying anyways. You're just swapping one bill for another, and oftentimes that solar bill ends up being cheaper than what you were paying to the utility company. That is what no-cost solar means. It makes a lot more sense when it's just explained exactly the way it is. I mean, you can imagine the disappointment people would have when they found out that not only are they going to have to pay for solar, but they're going to have to take out a loan to do it. Financing solar is actually the most common way that people pay for it, and there's some really good financing options available that are really easy to qualify for. But you can imagine how it would feel if you didn't know that beforehand. The next thing that we need to talk about is that you need to be realistic about how much it's going to save you. It's not just going to make your bills instantly disappear. This is really similar to what we just talked about, but you'll often hear ads saying things like, erase your bill completely. Let's look at this a couple of different ways. As I said earlier, you can pay cash or you can finance your solar project. If you were to pay cash for your solar system and it's producing all the electricity you need, you could technically eliminate your bill because you paid it all up front and you no longer have to make monthly payments. But there's still more to it than that. You're not actually going to be off-grid or completely cut off from the utility company for a couple of reasons. No matter what, you're going to have to pay a small connection fee to the utility company. I've actually got a full video on net metering that will explain that more in depth. I'll leave a link in the description. You can check that one out if you want. On the flip side, you can finance your solar. And again, if it's designed to provide all the electricity you need, then yes, you won't be paying the utility company for electricity anymore. But like I mentioned earlier, you've just swapped it out for a solar bill. And you're still going to have to pay that small connection fee, right? Now, granted, your solar bill might be cheaper than your utility bill was, and you might see some savings early on, but you need to be realistic about what those savings are really going to look like. When you finance it, you're usually going to be getting into a fixed monthly payment that won't ever go up. You might save a bit up front, but because you're on a fixed monthly payment, your real savings are going to be over time. Because as inflation drives energy costs up year after year, without solar, you'd be paying the utility company more and more every year for the same amount of power. When you finance your solar with a fixed rate, it's never going up again. In fact, your solar payment's probably going to be close to what you're currently paying the utility company right now. So keep that in mind. It might be less depending on where you live or what your situation is, but regardless, from there, it's never going up again. You no longer have to participate in the rising cost of energy year after year. You need to approach it as an investment that's going to save you more and more money over time. You're going to be really disappointed if you come into it thinking it's going to eliminate your bills completely or cost you nothing. You are going to save with solar, you just need to be realistic about how it's actually going to play out. The next misconception I want to get into has to deal with the solar tax incentive, and it's actually one of the worst offenders that I've seen. And it's really important to understand this correctly, so let's get into it. So far, everything we've talked about has dealt with ads making it sound like solar's free or that somehow you're not going to have to pay for it. And this one's no different. I've now seen several ads, multiple times, saying word for word that the government is going to cover the entire cost for you. And I don't know how they're getting away with saying it the way that they are, because it's a major stretch of the truth. Let's talk about what's actually going on here. First of all, no, the government is not covering the entire cost for you. They are, however, offering a 26% tax incentive to anyone who goes solar. Let me explain it really quickly. The federal government will give a 26% tax incentive for the entire cost of the project for anyone who goes solar. It's based on your tax liability, or what you owe in taxes. So whatever the cost of your solar project is, the government is going to credit you 26% of that cost to what you owe on taxes. So if you've been paying your taxes all year, you're actually going to receive that 26% tax incentive on your tax return in the form of a check. So you will actually be getting some money back from the government to help reduce the cost of your solar project. Hopefully that makes sense. Also, each state has its own set of incentives that kind of come and go depending on what's going on. So when you're ready to look at solar, get in touch with us and we'll help fill you in with what incentives are available in your state as well. Understanding the tax incentive is actually extremely important, because that, along with how you pay for it, is what makes it as affordable as it is. So you're going to probably want to find out more on that, and I do have a video on the channel. I'll link it to the description. You can go check that out as well. The fourth misconception that I want to get into that these ads are kind of driving is the idea that you can make extra power and sell it back to the utility company and make money. Oftentimes these ads will say that your power meter will run backwards and put money in your pocket. And the way they say it makes it seem like you can make extra power, more than you need, and sell it back to the power company for a profit. I hate to break it to you because it sounds awesome, but it's not the way it works. This idea has to do with what's called net metering, and it's a really important process to understand, so here's how it works. Most of the time when you go solar, you're not actually going to be off grid. You're still going to be connected, and here's why. Solar panels only work in the daytime, right? So understanding this, most solar systems are going to be designed to produce more electricity during the day than you can actually use during that time. The excess electricity will in fact travel backwards through your meter, but only to be stored in the grid as a credit until you need it later. So at nighttime, when you need electricity, the power company is going to credit back the power that you put in earlier in the day. Think about it exactly like a battery, where you're just storing some power for later. Many utility companies net meter on a 1-to-1 rate, meaning for every kilowatt hour that you put into the grid, they're going to credit back at the exact same rate. However, not all the utility companies operate on a 1-to-1 rate. So when you're going over a solar proposal, you're going to want to talk to your rep about how net metering works in your area. In short though, you can't sell extra power back to the grid in hopes of making tons of money. Because of this, it's really important to make sure that your system is properly sized. If you were to oversize your solar system in hopes of doing this, any excess power that you can't actually use is just going to be given back to the power company for free. They'll resell it at full price and you'll be the one losing money. The last thing that I want to go over that you'll commonly see in these ads is that they're always urgently prompting you to see if you qualify. This one's not really a misconception, it's just a way to create urgency and curiosity, like, oh my gosh, like, do I qualify? And you click on it, right? It's like, I gotta find out if I can have this or not. It's pretty common practice for advertising in general, so I'm not gonna slam it as a misleading tactic. But just for fun, let's talk about what's usually required to qualify for solar in most cases. That way you kind of just know going into it. First of all, you obviously need to be in a good area for solar. Like if you're way too far north, you don't get enough sun, or your utility company is really cheap, solar might not work for you. But it's still worth finding out if it does work in your area or not. Don't automatically assume that it won't work where you're at. You'd be surprised the places that you would think it doesn't work, but it actually works just fine. It's definitely worth filling out one of our forms so you can find out whether or not you're in a good area for it. Next is that you need to be the owner of the home. You can't be a renter. And in most cases, if you live in a townhome that's a shared complex, meaning it's one building with a bunch of townhomes in it, it's very difficult to do that, even if you are the homeowner. So you need to be the owner of the home, and ideally you want to be in a single family home. Next, if you plan on financing your solar, you need to have a credit score of at least 600 or better to qualify for the financing options. That's just standard across the board. And finally, your roof needs to be in decent shape. They usually like to see about 5 years of life left on it and like no obvious major damage. If your roof is old or in need of repair, it's not a loss. Like, don't discredit yourself immediately. We actually run into this all the time, and because because of that, we've developed some good relationships with roofing companies who can help you get that taken care of. And it usually ends up being a lot more affordable than you would think. So there you go. You can actually pre-qualify yourself right now if you want to. If you're the owner of the home, have a 600 credit score or better, and your roof's not in terrible shape, you're probably good to go. I've been paying close attention to these ads the last little while, and it's great because they just keep giving me more to talk about each time I see one. If you like this type of video, let me know in the comments and tell me if there's any other misconceptions that you'd like me to clear up. Either way, keep a lookout for more videos like this because there is plenty of misinformation for me to keep making videos about. And listen, just like I said in the beginning of the video, my mission here with the Solar Impact is to flip the script on the way that solar is being advertised right now, and to make sure that I can put out as much upfront and informative information as I can to help you learn about solar. Obviously, we want to help you get solar when you're ready. So go check out the Solar Impact YouTube channel where I've got videos going over all the major topics about solar to help make sure that you're well informed. And when you are ready, you can follow the links in the descriptions of all of my videos, or you can visit thesolarimpact.com. From there, you can schedule an appointment with us where we can answer any other questions you have, as well as get you a free proposal so that you can see exactly what solar is going to look like for you in your home. And when you're ready, we'll help you get in touch with a trusted installer in your area. If the information in this video was helpful, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Also, send it to some friends because it helps the channel grow and it means the world to me. Thanks so much for watching this video, and I'll see you next time.